Greetings. My name is Louise Dente, and I welcome you to yet another edition of Cultural Caravan. On this edition is a special as we discuss two very important topics and that really impact not just the city, the nation, and the world. Let's start with the pandemic and basically the introduction of several vaccines. To some, it's excitement. People are excited and ready to get it. There are others, particularly in our community and throughout others, that are very concerned. And we're joined by several distinguished guests. To my left, the second Assistant President General of the UNIA-ACL, Brother Raymond Dugue. Next to him is the board member of Cultural Caravan Productions, Miss Soraya Nickens. Next to her is the co-chair of CMOTAP, Dr.James McIntosh. And last but certainly not least is the chairman of the New York NACO and International African Arts Festival, Dr. Segun Shabaka. Welcome to Cultural Caravan. Well, let's start with the vaccine. As you know, there's a lot of excitement. People have been waiting for this vaccine. Many across the nation are lining up to get their vaccine and very anxious. Of course, healthcare workers are the first to get it. And now it's starting to be rolled out to elders and others, whether it be in education and so forth. But I just want to get your opinion of the vaccine. And first of all, let's start with if you were given an opportunity to get the vaccine now, would you, and why or why not take advantage of the opportunity? Let's start with Soraya.
Not right away. It just came out. They had Operation Warp Speed, which means it was warp speed. Now, these vaccines usually take few years to really perfect. This came out very quickly, and people, you don't know what effect your body is going to have to that. Some people, nothing happens. It's totally it's totally a normal reaction, or they don't feel anything. Some people do feel some pain or a little malaise, and some people have a bad reaction. So honestly, would I take it now? No.
Would I take it or wouldn't? No, I wouldn't take it now because of the same reasons Ms. Nickens said, which is that it was rushed into being. And in general, I haven't taken vaccines anyway because I've been relying on my immunity. I wouldn't say that there are no circumstances under which I would take it, but when I hear the statistics in terms of the likelihood of severe outcome, I think I'd rather take my chances with the virus than the vaccine, because it's a whole new technology. Involves messenger RNA. It involves some manipulation of your genetic material or the genetic material of the virus within your body. So I'm not that interested. I don't even eat GMO foods, so I wouldn't think about injecting something that might have some impact on my genes into my body. If it was something that was killing 99% of the people that came into touch with it, or if I felt I was so ill that I couldn't withstand it. But I feel I have pretty good immunity. I feel pretty healthy, and I like to keep it that way.
Well, I think I feel the way the others have expressed, that I wouldn't take it. I'm not confident in How fast it was produced, I don't know. The breakdown of the people that it was given to in terms of racial makeup, et cetera. I'm not that confident. And since I've had COVID, I think my system has built up in an immunity, and I'm hoping that'll work for me. But I'm not that confident in this government's ability to build that kind of vaccination this fast, and it's too much politics involved in it for me, so I'm not, I wouldn't take it. I wouldn't take it. I don't plan to take it. And like Dr. McIntosh said, right now, no way. In the future, as I see what unfolds, if it reveals itself, its safeness, et cetera, then I would consider it. Or life-threatening situation, I would consider it. Let's say I know this is probably where they want to go with it, that you can't do just ordinary things, travel, et cetera, without having taken it, then I might have to think about it.
I think one of the things that influenced me a lot was a Dr. Fuller, who was a college professor and a member of the panel that had to approve this, had to vote to approve this for the FDA. She was a member of the FDA panel, black woman, and she had concerns. So if a college professor, virologist on the panel of the FDA had concerns, there's no way that I, a person who doesn't know 1,000th as much as she does about these things, that I would be taking it if she wouldn't take it and if she had concerns about it. So I'd have to have concerns about it.
But, it's a complicated issue, but let me try to simplify it. As I understand it, with this vaccine right now, I have no interest in taking it. Now, if it becomes law and we are forced to take it, well, then I don't have a choice. But I would certainly wait this out because I have no interest in doing this. And the reason why I'm reluctant, well, based definitely on what the other panelists have said, but, the pandemic showed one thing seriously that affects us. There is intrinsic bias in the medical healthcare delivery towards Black people. So with that in mind, we have to be really vigilant and always be on top of it. So, and not only that, but what comes to my mind, Sister Louise, is the Tuskegee experiment. I mean, no offense, but it's not like it was 2 years. It was 40 years from 1932 to 1972. So I have reluctance, hesitancy, and as the other panelists have said, we're all trying to stay as healthy as possible, eating as much organic food. So if there was any reason, if there was any motivation to revisit our dieting, revisiting exercise, I think the pandemic is begging us to do that. So the answer to your question, Sister Louise, is no, I have no interest in pursuing it. And all those that need it, the healthcare workers, the senior citizens, please be my guests. I'll sit this out. Thank you.
There is also that other thing. As you recall, there was an African-American nurse who was the first to be immunized in the city. And she being immunized by another woman of African ancestry. And that really was to kind of encourage many of us in the community to consider it, that, hey, this is a healthcare worker. She is, out there on the front lines. Why is it that we're not? Now, so the question here becomes, yes, there are some in our community who are definitely going to take it. They can't wait, but there's a large percentage, and I guess maybe about a good 50% or more, who don't. And you raised a point about the Tuskegee experiment. We talked about medical racism in terms of the impact of this. Now, I just want to go to Dr. Shabaka. you actually had COVID. And for those in the audience, particularly, we know we've lost a number of people to the virus. What was some of the experiences you had being someone who actually came on the virus? What was the impact? And you did little. Can you briefly share in terms of what experiences you had, whether it be personally as well as dealing with the medical establishment?
It was, I was totally wiped out, total exhaustion. It was unbelievable. I tell people, it's funny when I think about it. I would walk to the bathroom 10 paces or so, go to the bathroom. When I come out, I'd be so tired I'd lay on the floor and sleep for an hour or two. I lost about 20 pounds. I was just wiped out. I mean, no energy, no energy. I didn't have totally the breathing problem, etc. But I think I was lucky, maybe because I'm in decent shape, health, and I was just lucky. They say also, I was just reading an article yesterday that said that for some people it's how much of the virus goes in you and your body has to fight. So there's a lot of new kind of, it's ongoing kind of feeling out what this thing is about. But for me, it was just, the fatigue was unbelievable.
I'm going to ask you, Soraya, what did you do proactively, and you talked about in terms of taking to deal with some of those issues before it really came into full effect? How did you experience it?
Oh, you're talking about, yes, I did come down with that as well. And I probably wouldn't have even known, but my son had caught it, and going to get tested for him, they asked me and I said yes, and boom, it turned out I never would have known. I really didn't have too many symptoms. I had one episode of shortness of breath for about 3 minutes, and it startled me so much that I took some. I had some vitamin C, and I took that, and it was gone, and I haven't had any symptoms since. But what happens with that is because what you hear on television, it just fills you with anxiety that you might get some symptoms. And just that anxiety of catching it, even though I didn't have, other than that 3 minutes of shortness of breath, I didn't have any symptoms, but just the anxiety. I also lost some weight because I was very conscious of what I ate. I cut out all kinds of junk food. I took mega supplements of vitamins. And I can't say whether that worked or not, but it worked for me. Because I felt that my immune system has to be strong in order to fight this. And so, like I said, for me, I had barely, if any, symptoms. So.
You pointed out that that the first person to get the injection was a black nurse, and that's like a part of marketing. When they want to sell McDonald's, you notice they have all the commercials with the black people in it. When they wanted to sell Legionnaire's vaccine, they made a track star, a doctor who was a track star by the name of Merriweather. They made him the head of the swine flu vaccination program. As it turned out, the swine flu never came about, yet the vaccine they used for it gave up to 500 people Guillain-Barré syndrome. Guillain-Barré syndrome is something that paralyzes you from the neck down. So a black person being the face for it is not necessarily something that makes it safe to take. In fact, it's kind of suspicious. We never are given anything first. That's good usually. So without me knowing that much more about the vaccine, I do know that that's not going to be something to make me run to it.
We know that this particular virus has impacted people on various levels. Some people barely felt it, particularly based on how well they immunized themselves through vitamins and other supplements, or just, so some people didn't feel it or they got through it. And then unfortunately, we know of some very prominent people and that were unfortunately did not have the same luck. And we know that this virus is a plague. I mean, interestingly enough, Africa is the only place in the world that has somehow been able not to get the level of impact as the rest of the world. And when you think about, how people like to talk about badly about Africa, but Africa could probably teach the world about how to deal with this virus. Would anyone like to talk about the role and the impact of this virus on Africa?
As it relates to Africa, and this is important, I'm going to start with the island state of Haiti. Haiti shares a larger island with Dominican Republic, and they have practically the same population. Dominican Republic is twice the size in terms of land space. Believe it or not, the virus did impact and did afflict people in Dominican Republic, but it didn't affect and afflict practically anyone in Haiti. In fact, it never went. And what we were concerned over is that it's not a real a functioning government. It's a puppet state. Let's be honest with ourselves. And so we've thought it was going to be the worst, but it didn't happen. But the point is, they share the same island and the same people. And there's always, in fact, as the Dominican Republic got hit and Haiti didn't get hit, a lot of our brothers and sisters from Dominican Republic went back into Haiti. So meaning they would have brought the virus over, but it never hit in Haiti, which leads us back to Africa. Other than Southern Africa, and you have to keep in mind, South Africa is not in the tropics. When we say tropics, we're meaning the space between the Tropic of Capricorn and the Tropic of Cancer. South Africa is actually south of that, so it's not in that area. But outside of South Africa and northern parts of Africa, specifically Egypt and other parts, Africa wasn't hit. And so, and I think a lot of research has to be done. Why wasn't it hit? And you'll forgive me for this, for our listeners on Cultural Caravan. The direction I'm taking this is, I think it's not the social distancing. I don't believe it was the mask wearing. I don't believe it was the washing hands. I think there's other issues, and I don't have the data, but it strongly suggests that there may be some immunity to either the tropic area, but if that's the case, then what happened in Dominican Republic should have happened in Haiti. It didn't happen. So this is something, and you know what? There was an article in Miami Herald. The CDC is doing research why it never hit Haiti. And so leads us back to Africa. I think we as concerned people should really be asking these questions, and we can't let it to the authorities to answer. We need to get involved.
Now we're going to make a brief transition. And let me first start with one of them, which was the very much anticipated Georgia runoff, that took place between Reverend Raphael Warnock, an African-American Democrat, against a Kelly Loeffler, who was a incumbent Republican. From many know, he won the first senator, African-American senator from Georgia, which is historic. And then you had another contestant, another Democrat, John Ossoff, who won against an incumbent Senator David Perdue. And both won very narrow races, but they won. And now there's going to be, for the first time in 10 years, a basic of 50-50, where you have both the Democrats and the Republicans 50-50 in terms of representation. And of course, Kamala Harris, the first woman of color, African ancestry, who's serving as the vice president, will be the tiebreaker if there are any ties that need to be broken. So that was an interesting time. And I just wanted to give people a chance to reflect on that. and because a lot of effort went into that happening. It could have went either way. And I'm going to ask Soraya to share with us your thoughts about the Georgia election.
Well, I think it's historic. I think about Stacey Abrams, and you know, she lost an election some years ago in Georgia running for governor, and there were um, a lot of discord over that because you know the current governor was he was the one in charge of the voting in Georgia at that time, and from what I heard, a lot of votes were deemed to be well. Anyway, they weren't allowed. So he like maybe hundreds of thousands of votes. So this is one of the reasons why, you know, a lot of people look at it that she could have won had he not been doing certain things. And really, when you think about it, how was this allowed? He's running for office, but he's also in charge of the voting. You know, somehow that didn't seem right, but she came right back. She didn't cry over it. She organized, and she is the reason, the absolute reason why these two Democrats won in this state. It was her organizing. And really, from what I heard, she went to rural areas and got people who weren't even registered to vote and registered them, and they're part of the reason a lot of this win had to do with people who never voted before or who were not registered, and all of a sudden she was able to get them. So it just shows that and nobody thought that they were going to win. Everybody thought, okay, one of them might win, but both of them no. And that just shows you, see, sometimes I even wonder about the numbers they give for us when they talk about, oh, blacks are only 30% or 25%. We're notoriously undercounted. How is it, you know, if everyone were allowed to vote, how many more of these races would we be winning? So we need people like her, and hopefully she's able to do this more, maybe in more states, and get more people registered, and we may see different results.
It was an interesting race and contest. With people, there's a lot of things going on, a lot of moving parts. Number one, a lot of money was spent there. I mean, an incredible amount of money. That's number one. Number two, yes, our dear sister Stacey Abrams and the whole group put in the work. I think there are 152 counties in Georgia. Every county they went through, all of that. And, you know, and it was close because the GOP, the Republican Party, is strong in those places. But I personally believe what tipped it over was that $2,000. That was it. I mean, you know, everybody can relate to that. It was going to be close, but that $2,000, where they made it an issue, it tipped it over. And you know, but okay, this is great. But here, I've got a question. None of the four candidates even talked about like single payer. I mean, this is amazing. You know, nobody talked about single payer. Nobody talked about free tuition. And nobody talked about canceling debt, which is crippling, I mean, not just us as Africans, but other people in this country. So again, yes, we commend what the workers did. And supposedly the Democratic Party now controls the Senate. But, you know, the message is clear. No one is coming to our rescue. We really need to hold ourselves up to the brim. We need to get involved. We need to control our communities, get involved.
I think it's an important victory in that now the Democratic Party, the Biden-Harris administration, has control of all three branches of the government, and they can push through their agenda. I just hope that black people are on the agenda, and that to talk about delivering to black people, because black people saved the day again. The black vote, Stacey Adams, in terms of what she did in Georgia, gave Warnock and Ossoff their victory, and black people in general in this election gave the Democrats a victory. I think I said it the last time I was here. I hope they deliver, because as Kwame Ture said, that for the most part, the Democratic Party has betrayed black people. Black people continue to deliver to the Democratic Party, but it doesn't deliver to our community. And that means it has to be a massive infusion of resources into our community to turn around some of these conditions that we under in terms of education, employment, health, etc. And so this now does not allow for an excuse. You have control of the government. Let's see how it deals with our situation. The poor people in this country, the downtrodden, the masses who are suffering.
Ostensibly, the Democrats have control, at least, of the executive branch and the legislative branch, but the Supreme Court is still under the control of the Republicans, and it seems like this is like a shell game, and we have to see whether or not, because Obama had control of the in his first 2 years of office, he had control of the Senate and the Congress, and really very little got done, that helped black people. So I'm with Segun. Now, it remains to be seen what's going to happen. I mean, certainly you have to applaud the victory. You have to applaud the effort, because these are people that are fighting to get some kind of justice for us. But then again, I also have to agree with Brother Raymond. Nobody's coming to our rescue. We have to do some things for ourselves.
I just want to thank you all for sharing your thoughts. And definitely, you've raised some important things. One of the things that we find, particularly, that the power of the black vote was very evident, particularly whether it was in North Carolina, the Carolinas, back during the presidential election, where we brought Biden over the top in terms of being able to resurgence as the lead candidate, as well as what happened this week with two candidates who could have lost easily, but because of the power of some serious organizing by Stacey Abrams and others, we have two people going to, and I think the bigger question for us as a people is, we've got to continue the agitation. We can't stop. Sometimes once we get someone in the office, we feel that's it. The job is over. But the same type of agitation, same type of energy that went into getting people elected, we've got to do the same thing to keep them accountable. And that's, to me, seems to be the area where our people do not, the inconsistency is some of our people feel, oh, we got them in. Now we can lay back and rest. But other groups understand that you've got to remind people, hey, it was me. What are you going to do? If you want this vote to come back 4 years from now, what are you going to do? And I think that's the type of sophistication that we may need to look at to ensure that the parties understand the power of the black vote, the power of the consistency, and the dedication. So I think that we've actually, there's a lot to be seen. We hope for the best, but understand that it's also an opportunity for our community to roll up their sleeves and get busy. I hope you've enjoyed this broadcast, and we continue to encourage you to tune in, to write, and to tell a friend. And please visit our website at www.ccptv.org. But until next time, Louise Dente saying thank you.